I'm back.
Yeah.
Was she crying yesterday on the show?
Yeah. Off
Like-
air. They don't know.
Crocodile tears. I miss Brian.
Crocodile.
Did you?
Hi guys.
No, she's
It
changing the
was
subject.
hard. It was hard.
No, she didn't miss me at all. I missed you guys. It was MLK Day, so I was taking a day off. My kids were off school, so somebody had to make sure the place didn't burn down.
Yeah.
That was me. Today we're talking about something I think many of us as believers have felt before. It's called the unbearable pressure to do great things for the Lord. The unbearable pressure to do great things for the Lord. It's that idea that, you're sitting there on a Sunday morning, maybe visiting a big church, or in your church, and you see your pastor up there, and you're going, that guy's making a difference for the kingdom. Look at that guy right there. What am I doing?
Yeah.
I want to do that. That's great for God. Or you read a story about some Christian speaker evangelizing to thousands of people, and all these people get saved, and you're like, that person is doing great things for God. What's wrong with me? I must not be doing a good job. And I think that's compounded by the American dream. We talked about it at the very end of the show before we had to cut things off to pass it off to J.D. Greer. We talked about the American dream is ultimately that it's possible in America for you to reach for your dreams.
Yes, it's possible.
It is possible. If you wanted to be an astronaut and all the things were in order, like you could put together all the perfect conditions, anybody in America could be an astronaut. A woman, a man, whatever,
Yeah.
right? Same with president. One of the things people, set aside politics, one of the things people loved about the inauguration, at least, of President Barack Obama was it proved the American dream to be yet true again.
Yeah.
That even an African-American man, we thought it'd never be possible. People were weeping. Forget politics. They were weeping because they never thought they'd see a day where an
Yeah.
African-American man was president.
Talk about moments when a child would tell their dad, I want to be president. And for years, you had to look at your kid and be like, no.
Yeah, you will not. You are not
Yes.
old or white.
Yeah, exactly.
But in this case, I think the author brings up a really important quote from philosopher Alain de Botton. Did that sound very French?
It did. You're on it.
It says there's a real correlation between a society that tells people they can do anything and the existence of low self-esteem. Because the reality is, you could accomplish anything. Odds are you're not gonna.
Yeah.
I hate to be Debbie Downer,
Yeah.
but you're probably not going to. In fact, they talked about a trend several years ago. All the self-help books at bookstores were called things like, you can do it, anything's possible, awaken the giant within you. And now they've shifted to helping people cope with low self-esteem, shame, and overcome feelings of not accomplishing anything in life. And I mean, even in Christian circles, David Platt did radical. Do radical things for God. I think it was a good message, but some people walked away going, if I don't, does that mean I'm a bad Christian?
Yeah. Hi, Callie and Mike. Good morning, guys. Mike says all things are possible with God, but not all things are probable. Same with our lives.
That's what you said.
Yeah, I think, all things are possible. Well, not all things, because we just said, I get your point, and I agree, Mike. I think it's not just the people who have not accomplished what they think they could have. I think it's also people who maybe have accomplished it and realize that the joy is not where they thought it was. Because I think of my parents coming to this country and wanting the American dream. I was a firstborn, so there was a lot of pressure there. And my dream when I was 17, I remember being in Dominican Republic on vacation and telling my friends, I want to be an aerospace engineer. And at 20-something, I got my degree and got an offer from NASA. And I never worked there because the Lord wanted differently, but I can see, because I've been in discussions where people are like in their mid-30s, late 30s, and you realize like it's not there. So I don't think it's just, we're reaching and we don't get it. It's also like we're not finding our joy in what we're getting. Do you agree? Or you're thinking it's just most of the time you don't get what you're reaching for? Yeah, or in terms of doing great things for the Lord?
I think a lot of people walk around feeling that they aren't doing enough for God,
Do it. Okay.
or that they could do great things for God and they're not. And they feel pressure that they need to be just like an evangelist or a pastor, or they're really not being a good follower of Jesus. Don't you think?
Yes.
Have you ever felt that?
I felt that in the years that I just stayed home. The Lord was clear that he wanted me to be home and homeschool. And even, and especially from the church, I would feel like I would get messages that I'm not doing enough. Like, oh, you're just a mom. And so I would, even though I knew that, and I still feel that my ministry at home with my kids is generational and it's awesome. You feel down because you're like, wow, nobody sees this. You know, and I know that's my bad. Nobody needs to see it. But I struggled with that, with like, man, I'm not even getting validation from the church that what I'm doing at home is great things for the Lord. And you're right, it's usually either the stage stuff, like preaching pastors or missionaries, and a lot of it we do to ourselves. You go on Facebook and you see the pictures, and you're like, man, I'm not doing that. You said that a little bit on air.
I mean, do any of you feel this pressure to do great things for God? Because I know it's probably weird coming from us. We're in a position of public ministry that a lot of people might want our kind of job. Who are we to go, oh, I want to do great things for God when we have a cool job?
Well, isn't that relative?
You tell me. Have you arrived in terms of pleasing God with doing great things?
Oh no, that's not my answer to that question. Well, have you felt that?
I felt unbearable pressure to do great things for God. Yeah, absolutely.
When? And was it having a job like this one? Or was it when you were a teacher?
I felt it more when I started off in radio. And I felt like I was supposed to like do something bigger and better in radio, more important.
Where did it come from?
This pressure around me.
Was it people? Was it you and your upbringing?
I think there was a lot of the rat race of the American dream with a young family. I don't not only want to be like very successful and support my family with ease and comfort, but there was a season where I wanted to be known. Like I would have thought I was doing something great for God if I was traveling the country, speaking at conferences, like I was a national level speaker. If when I posted a blog, I'd get millions of reads, not hundreds. That when I did a podcast episode, it would go across the globe.
Go viral.
And I'd probably be on a late night talk show sitting down going, oh, Stephen Colbert, you are still funny.
Yeah.
You know, or Jimmy Fallon, great to be here again. I know I'm a Christian, but you love me. And, you know, I felt that pressure, didn't you? Don't you?
I do feel it, but how do you distinguish when you're like, no, I don't feel like the Lord's done with me, versus you just, that it's you? That's a hard one to answer. Teresa says, I feel it during and after individual conversations, like I could have done better representing the cause for Christ.
Yeah, I mean, it could be something as small as that you feel like you failed one conversation versus you haven't done enough for Jesus in your life.
Radical, when you brought up that book, that's one. That's one that I could see maybe generated. Or you brought up not just Radical. This is a different person. Francis Chan is a different. Who was Radical? Who wrote Radical?
Radical was David Platt. But Francis Chan did like Crazy Love or...
Crazy Love. But we brought it up on the show, and you mentioned on the show how his life and where the Lord has him makes us sometimes ask ourselves, am I doing enough? Remember, because he like dropped his church and went to Korea, but it's like, or another country to live out his calling. Maybe it's like Callie says, we're our own worst critics. So maybe we do it to ourselves to put that pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, an interesting perspective on this one, the unbearable pressure to do great things for God.
Yeah.
You kind of want, a lot of us want to be known as somebody who's like a outspoken person for Jesus, right?
Yeah.
A simple exercise in this front would be, can you name all 12 disciples?
Right.
Can you?
No, I could try, but no.
I mean, you can't even do Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, because Mark and Luke were not... Mark and Luke were not official disciples.
Right. You could do the top
Matthew.
3, I'll get.
You got John, you got Peter, Judas, well, I mean, whoops, I don't know that one. You got Thomas.
Andrew? Did you say him already?
James.
Wow, we're only on 7? Oh.
But here's the interesting thing. There's the couple that you can't remember their names. Are you telling me that Jesus Christ, the Lord himself, chose those 12 men? What, some of them didn't do great things for God? Are you kidding me? Well, we can't remember their name. So does human recognition have anything to do with it?
Right. Mike says, I've been disappointed in the past, but figured out I was putting high expectations on. And when I failed to meet them, I was discouraged. Now I put more achievable expectations on things, but high enough so I don't just coast along and don't grow. So that brings up the question, should we have expectations at all?
I know your answer to this. You're a dreamer.
Yeah.
Isn't the risk of big dreams for God disappointment?
It could
and
be.
Pressure?
But part of my issue with people that have a problem with dreamers is if we believe the Lord packaged us the way he did, I mean, what's his name? Joseph was a dreamer. So what do you do with him? Do you say what was wrong with him? You know, I think it's just a way of functioning with, like making sure, is it in line with God? Am I being flexible? Questioning your dreams. Is this God's dream or is it my dream?
Yeah, how do you know the
as
difference?
As you go. In the years past, the confirmation from the Lord has helped in terms of know the difference. But not everybody's experience is the same. For me, it's asking God for confirmation. And when he does it through people or experiences, Jim says, which I don't see Jim a lot, says, I think it's our inherent nature to compare ourselves against one another. Doesn't this correlate to your earlier example of salaries? Salary is a measuring stick of how effective, successful we perceive ourselves to be. That brings up to the pastors. I've heard of pastors struggling a lot with feeling like the expectation is for you to end up being a megachurch.
Yeah.
And we've heard people say, no, your calling could just be to be a church with 100 people for years to come and make a difference. But I think we struggle with that. We want numbers and, like Jim is saying, salary. And
yet the writer of this article said that a friend of his once told him, for a long time, you have felt that you need to be the guy. When you were younger, you felt you needed to be the guy in the football field. As a younger man, the guy in the business world. And now, the guy as the pastor. And in fact, on one of his first days at the church, when he finally achieved like the mega church he's always wanted to pastor, the secretary said, hey, Ken, I just want you to know that if this ship sinks now, everyone will blame you, since you were the last captain of the helm.
Wow.
She was trying to motivate me to work harder, but her words depressed me. During those days, I felt constantly anxious, trying to keep the ship of the church afloat. I mean, even in our sense, there's a whole lot of pressure, not literally, but figuratively, sitting in Bob Devine's chair. Never going to be as good as Bob Devine, never going to be as popular as Bob Devine, never going to be as well loved, never going to be as effective of a communicator.
Yeah.
So what do you do with that? You got to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Does that mean you fail God?
Maybe it's redefining what we call success could help. Jim says, of course, we pastors measure ourselves against attendance and giving and ministries and yes, salary.
Yeah, it's true. That can't be our measuring stick.
Gosh.
How do we get rid of it? Because I honestly think the American dream has seeped so much into church that we could end up feeling this pressure to do great things for God, as if the obedient servant of Christ who loves the Lord and faithfully cleans the bathrooms at the church is somehow lesser
Right.
in God's eyes. No. The person who is really great at witnessing to their neighbor and shares Jesus with their neighbor versus the pastor. What, the pastor's more important to God?
Right.
Christ died for all of us, regardless of who we are. You know?
Yeah.
But it's easy for us to think that we have to do great things for him in order to get his recognition and approval. But the gospel says the opposite.
Yeah.
That the work
And
is
it's
finished.
defining what is great things. Because I think as humans too, we have to be careful when you don't have a standard, you can seep into laziness, complacency, mediocrity, you know?
Yeah. But the scriptures say work, really mightily in Colossians. Do your work as best you can, as if you're working for the Lord.
Right.
So it's a heart motive,
Right.
right? It's not an issue of what you're doing. It's not an issue of who you're pleasing other than God.
Deborah says, it's our low self-esteem that causes this. Look how much Facebook has caused emotional problems because people think their lives aren't as quote-unquote good as their friends. Yeah. And again, with that social media thing, it's the comparison thing. So like you said, it's a heart issue. We compare, and then why do you need to be better or equal as, and it's a lack of contentment.
So how do you get contentment if you're not the Christian who gets all the attention?
Yeah, it's hard.
Hey, Miriam, by the way, good to see you here. Glad you
that's
got
hard.
here.
How do you get contentment? How do you guys get contentment? Deborah says, as Christians, we understand that our own comparison is to God and we will never measure up, hence the need for Jesus. I'm trying to think. Because I struggled more when I just stayed at home and I knew I had more to give. Contentment to me was, and this, my mentor helped me with this. He would keep telling me there's no better place to be than in the center of God's will.
Mm-hmm.
So the peace of knowing I'm exactly where God wants me to be. It was a fight and it was a struggle. And it could apply to anywhere that you're serving him. But it was hard because there's voices. You hear it over and over. You know, why aren't you doing more? Or I'm sure pastors hear it all the time. And so it's just a constant, you got to repeat things to yourself or take it to the Lord. I don't think it's like, okay, I'm content, I'm here, fine. How did you find contentment? Because you said you struggled with it in the beginning, when you were in radio.
Part of it is getting to something you set as a goal and realizing it's not all that.
Mm-hmm. That's how you found contentment, you're saying?
I discovered that I was putting my hope and my aspirations towards my own goals. When I achieved one of them, it wasn't as great as I ever imagined it would be.
Yeah.
Not that it's bad, but really, my heart condition ought to be so different than doing great things for God. Isn't our heart condition supposed to be, I'm such a mess, I can't believe Jesus died for me, like every day? Isn't it so great that he died for me? And if he died for me, I'm just going to be obedient to what he wants me to do and find contentment there. Like our contentment's supposed to be in the Lord, as like spiritual as that sounds, it's the truth.
Yeah.
We're not going to find contentment in worldly achievement. So what? It's like Billy Graham's mom, what's her name? Go ahead, tell me.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, but she doesn't matter, of course.
Right.
Or his grandma, or his great-grandma. I mean, none of that matters.
Yeah. Deborah says, yes, keep focus on the truth. Don't let the negatives in. Positive and negative can't exist in your head at the same time, so focus on what is true and noble. I think I also think the Lord, like for me, when I was at home, focusing on the why he had me there also helped me with contentment. In that case, and you could apply it to your ministry. I was, at the time, the beginning, I had a bunch of boys, so it was like I'm raising, leaders of households. And so it would give me the motivation and the inspiration. So I wouldn't feel burnt out, like I'm just here. And I think he cares. It's not just, well, be here because I have you here. He cares about our motivation. He wants us to be inspired and to be creative and to find joy in where we're at, and past I just want to serve him. I think he has a mission and vision where he has you, and if you focus on that and seek him for that, it helps you stay on course and stay excited about it.
Aren't we supposed to hold loosely to it?
Hold loosely to what?
Let's say somebody's really thinking they're doing the best for the Lord and they can't wait to work their way up the corporate ladder. Shouldn't they hold loosely to that?
Yeah.
But we don't. Like, I think one of our ways to, let's just say, you think you're doing great things for God through volunteering in children's ministry, like running the children's ministry at your church.
Yeah.
Or you're a pastor, or you're in the corporate world. Ask yourself this: if you got fired today, how would you feel tomorrow?
All right.
And if you would be devastated and wonder what your value is in the world, maybe your value is misplaced.
Yeah, I agree. Marian says, easier said than done. I think everyone struggles with what to do and when to do it. Yeah, Marian. I am involved in several things in church and do my best to live righteously for God and in service to others, and often feel like I'm lacking somewhere. When I tell others of all I do, they ask me how I could possibly do any more. Bottom line, ask yourself if God is pleased with what you're doing.
But it's not about what you do. Is it?
What is not salvation? Is it? No. But I think your service to the Lord.
Does doing a lot for God make you more saved?
I don't think it's about a lot. I again think of Joseph. Wherever he was at, he was serving God faithfully. In prison.
But he didn't feel pressure to do more.
He didn't. But he had a clear dream, and wherever the Lord had him, he served him there. And he was faithful wherever he was at. So you can do both. You can have a clear dream, and he just seems content. Like I would have been, considering how I handled being at home, I would have been in the prison like, wait, hold up. The Lord, like, I saw something else. So he would encourage me a lot, looking at Joseph's story. Man, wherever he was at, he was serving him. So when you're saying, well, it's not about what you do, I think it is. I think you serve him because you love him and because you're grateful. But I think it's contentment in, like you said, I like what you said about not putting your identity in what you do, but doing it with joy and faithfulness.
And God's not waiting to zap you going, man, you only volunteered
Yes.
4 hours this week? Wow. That's not what he's doing.
Yeah. Jim says, I've come to believe my first priority must be in my relationship to God, not what I do.
Amen.
I will never be able to judge my effectiveness until all of history is complete. I think God desires my presence with him, but I tend to default to needing to prove my love for him by my work.
Jim, that's so well said. I'm actually reading Nancy Kane's book right now. I don't know if we have a copy of it in the studio. What's it called again?
Stages of the Soul.
Stages of the Soul. You got to go get Stages of the Soul by Nancy Kane. It's a Moody Publishers book. It deals with that very issue.
Yeah.
God just wants you to love him and be in a relationship with him. That's it.
Yeah.
If you're worried about doing things for God, you're missing the point.
Right.
He doesn't need you to do that. He wants
So what do
you
you
to
do?
be in an intimate relationship with him.
So what do? You just sit? And
You
just
seek
be
relationship with the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll show you what he wants you to do.
Right.
But
and
make
then
him
you
the
do it.
focus, not what you're doing.
Well, yeah. Right. Martha says, group prayer, intercessory group, much pressures because I can't do it much. Would like to, she would like to, mom of many. Marian says we're supposed to spread the gospel. Yeah. Great commission. Salvation is not about works, but we are to live our lives in a way that will please God, whatever that looks like for that person.
Sure. So which acts do you have to do to please God?
I don't know. I think what you do matters. Like even
Of course
if I
it
just
does.
take the very basic, I'm a mom. I gotta take it a little bit past. Well, I just love the Lord. I'm here. I gotta be faithful and sensitive to how are you gonna use me today, Lord? And I work out my salvation through my ministry wherever He has me.
But
Whether
isn't
it's
the
with-
danger though saying, God, here's my agenda, be sure you do something with it?
No, that's what I just said. Asking the Lord, how are you going to use me today where you have me? So if you're clear on where He has you and what you want Him to do, He wants you to do, I think your faithfulness matters in your work.
Sure. I'm with you on that. I just think heart motive does matter.
Yeah, it does.
Like our heart motive is supposed to be in relationship with the Lord, period.
That's right.
And glorify Him.
Right. Jim says the hardest thing to do is just sit with Him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come to me, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest.
Yeah.
He doesn't say, and then when you're done resting, get up and do a lot of things for me so that I'm more pleased with you. Doesn't say that.
Right.
It says you're a mess, trust in Christ alone for your salvation.
Good morning, Teresa, Callie, Martha, Miss Anita's on. Brian, checking you. Shirley and Aaron and Jill. Good morning, Jill.
I think it'd be helpful for you to check out this article as we get close to wrapping up here. The unbearable pressure to do great things for the Lord. I think all of us feel it, but Jim has made some
Deborah
great comments here.
Says, remember the book of James talks about doing.
It does, yeah.
So it's a balance.
Faith without works is dead. You're absolutely right. But what is the motivation for the works?
Right. So
Is it to
assuming
please
your
God?
motivation is correct, your work does matter.
But your focus isn't even about your works. Your focus is loving the Lord.
Yeah, I agree.
And
So
you're
it's just finding
serving the
that
poor
balance.
because you love Jesus, not because you're trying to please God.
Yeah, that's true.
You're not checking a box. You're not trying to earn his favor. You've already earned it
Yeah.
through Christ. It's just, I think it's something that Nancy Kane talks about in this book that's been convicting to me.
Yeah.
Is we often all try to do things for God. That's not what he's expecting of us.
Yeah, that's right.
Go check out her book, The Stages of the Soul. I think you'll enjoy it. And this article, hate to say it, but we gots to go.
Peace out.
We will talk to you, as they say in Dominican Republic, tomorrow.
Hasta mañana.
Did you like how I did that, tomorrow?
We